Welcome, everybody, to another Microsoft Unboxed pod. This is episode 97.
Yeah, I believe it is 97. We're a little above 40, buddy.
Definitely. It's just a little bit. I'm trying to go back in time, trying to stay young.
Well, I know it's Friday, and I know it's a holiday weekend, and I know you're ready to get out, but let's not go backwards.
Oh, no, I'm already checked out, my friend. This pod's going to be crazy. Just kidding. I'm your host today, Kareem and David, joined by
David Allen. Hope everybody is doing well, and we're probably both a little crazy today, but that's okay. Oh, as long as you guys can be crazy with us for 45 minutes, hour or so, we would appreciate it.
Yes, this week was Google I.O., so we have a lot of Google news to go over. Don't hate us. I mean, this is tech news and it relates to Microsoft, so we'll tie it all back in. We'll make it make sense. The other things we're going to be talking about are, I think Alexa AI can now create full podcasts. I think Spotify is doing something similar. Basically, because the world doesn't need more podcasts, obviously, they've decided to triple down on you can create your own podcast. So if you couldn't find a niche one about some random murder that you want to try and solve via podcast, you can create your own now. We're going to go over that. Plex has a lifetime pass that should be going up in price, I believe, in July. You're going to tell us about that. You're going to tell us about those numbers. And then we have Microsoft quietly announced on the same day that Google I was starting, here's our new services, at least commercial services. And they quietly announced it, and people quietly said, no, thank you. Just kidding. We don't have any sales yet, but the overall announcement of these devices was kind of meh. And then we're going to end the week with a couple announcements about leadership changes, one for the Xbox, one for the presumable future of Windows. We have a long-time Microsoft exec leaving. It was just announced last night, posted it. And my thoughts on this are going to, maybe for anybody who had faith in the Windows rhetoric about change and a new future, you may want to skip past it because I am coming with all the cynicism. With that being said, what are you complaining about this week as far as tech is related, David?
Well, I'm going to have to really complain here. I'm going to have to complain against Microsoft or Android One. I think they're both in play here. Phone Link has really upset me this week. I'm a big Phone Link user. I like my integration. I like going to my desk every morning and putting the phone on the charger. And once I grab my keyboard and mouse, I'm locked in. And as some of you know, if you've used Phone Link, there's two parts to it, or, I consider it two parts. When you open up Phone Link, you have your text messaging there, and you can send SMS messages back and forth, and you can have other interactions there with your phone. Well, there's also the option to dock your Android apps on your taskbar. And you can dock your Gmail, your Google Messages, any app you want, as far as I'm aware, it can be docked. I am a big fan of RCS messages. I like the rich text. I like the ability to, send things back and forth and know when people have got them and not. So I like to park my Messages app down on the taskbar. And it works. It works well for about 3 days, maybe 4. And then you go, you walk, and I close it every day. Before somebody comments, well, David, you got to do this. When I'm done, I close it on the PC. I close it on the phone. I make sure everything is closed out. Nothing is left hanging, so it should be a restart the following day. But no, what happens? You sit down, you launch Messages. You launch it from your taskbar. Please unlock your phone. Pick up your phone. Wait, my phone is unlocked. Close it, reopen it. No, please unlock your phone. Okay, let me go back to Phone Link and refresh. There's a refresh button on the top left side. Click the refresh. We cannot find your phone. Please reconnect. You can't reconnect. It won't never find it again. So what do? You reboot. everything hooks back up. You're good for 2 or 3 days, maybe 4. Rinse, restart the whole process. Now, for those that like to know, I'm on a Samsung Galaxy S25 that's on the latest 8.5, I believe it was released last week, the 8.5 One UI with all the latest updates. The particular PC that I use for my daily work is not in the Windows Insider channel. It's whatever Microsoft says is final, wants me to have. So there's nothing special going on there. I've kind of, for those that have followed, I've kind of had my fill of Microsoft apps on mobile. A few weeks ago, they would stop connecting all of my Microsoft apps and had to restart all of my Google services, which made me have to reconnect my watch and redo the whole thing just for Microsoft apps. Okay, we seem to fix that in the last update. Now we're dealing with phone link issues. Come on, Microsoft. Get it together, because that apple that hangs over there on that tree, it keeps looking fresher and fresher by the minute. Come on now, work with me a little bit here.
Yeah, I think in their defense, they are fighting an uphill battle. They don't create Android, so they don't have all the access to it. They don't create iOS. They don't have all the same sort of
I'll give you that.
It is much more seamless on a Chrome OS to use a Galaxy phone than it is to go through phone link on a Windows PC. Obviously, it's one of the selling points for the Mac and iOS ecosystem. The fact that they've gotten this far is amazing. Obviously, we would like them to continue to keep developing, maybe thaw out some of that ice cold war that they got going on with Google to see if they can get a little more API so that, to your point, could be a little less glitchy. Nevertheless, I don't really use it all that often. I play with it a lot. I started just like you, and then once it gets connected, I forget about it for half a year. Then I'll be like, you know what? It would be kind of cool to have some text messages on here. And then I'll play around with it again. I can't really go with you on that rant because, like I said, I don't use it as often, but I do feel you. I do feel that Microsoft, as part of some of this two-factor authentication, does a lot of screwiness with apps. You go in, they sign themselves out, they ask you to sign in with a Microsoft account, and you're saying, hey, I signed in with my company email, and then it's trying to switch between the two. It's been a mess. Microsoft does need to fix that. The thing I'm ranting about, I'll make it short so we can get back to our news, is TV OSs.
Oh, now I can on this road. Go for it.
Either commit to them or don't. But this fact that they're built in is nice. And I'm sure there are a ton of people who aren't tech enthusiasts like myself that get a huge benefit from them. But imagine how much more they would stick to your brand if they actually work. This reminds me of like car infotainment sitters. Like they're in there, but they're slow. The touch response is bad. They're glitchy. They, shut down. Bluetooth is never connecting 100% of the time. If it connects 50% of the time. TV OSs are the same way. They've decided, if you're a TV manufacturer, that, hey, it'd be great if we put a chip in there that'll run our own custom OS. That'll give you access to connecting your apps and connecting, giving you a display of all the channels and some extra, utilities. But they are always dead slow. The technology is based on previous years of technology that wasn't good to begin with. I'm going to say, and this is the reason why Chromecast, Roku, Amazon sticks, this is the reason why those things take off wholeheartedly, because the experience was bad. If you, Samsung, you, LG with WebOS or whatever you use, TCL, whatever custom version you're using, if you guys provided a better, more fluid experience on your device, people wouldn't be running to the Chromecast, the other things like this. And I'm going to go out on a tinfoil hat here and say, this could have saved the cable industry. Part of the reason why a lot of people ran to the apps is because once you got a Chromecast or a Roku or an Amazon Stick or Apple TV, they didn't have cable connectors. They only had the apps. So you had to. So if you're saying, hey, the experience was so bad, I got a Chromecast. Now Chromecast is asking me to log into a Paramount app versus just going to Paramount on your TV, going to channel, 2 or 5 or whatever it was on your TV. If you had a good TV experience on your on the TV OS, you'd say, you know what? I don't need the Chromecast. I don't need the stick. I don't even need to sign into an app right now. I just hopped on. The TV was fluid. It got me to where I needed to be. And the app is included as an extra. That's great. But I don't need it. I can just go to TV. My point is, I think we lost a generation of cable in part to bad TV operating systems. Yes, cable was expensive, but we're seeing in hindsight, maybe it wasn't that expensive and offered some utility. But the experiences were so bad that people opted for watching on their phone, watching on their desktop, watching it in these entertainment sticks. That's my rant. Fix your operating system. Maybe we can bring cable back.
I totally agree, because how many people, there were some TVs bought in my family over the last few months. How many people buy a TV, and when they buy it, to your point, they walk right over to the streaming stick section and pick out their streaming platform of choice, whether it be Fire TV, Google TV, Apple TV, or whatever. They don't even give the operating system on the TV a chance, because they're all, I'm going to say it, they're all crappy. Everyone that I have ever used is crappy, and how they're set up, you reach a point where they don't update anymore.
Yes.
So
exactly.
so when Hulu, for example, or Netflix, for example, updates, it says, this app no longer plays. This app no longer loads. This app no longer works. Or you can't use it because we don't have the version and we don't support it. So what do? You turn around and you go buy your streaming stick or streaming device of choice. To your point, yes, while we're on the software fix-it rants, Microsoft Android, fix yours. Samsung, TCL, Sony, and LG especially, please fix yours. I've got 2 LG TVs in my house. Wonderful TVs. I enjoy them. Paid. These are not bottom of the barrel TVs. One I've had a couple years. The streaming apps no longer work. And it's a couple years old. So, come on. Let's do better. Do better.
Hey, couldn't have said it better myself. Now let's get into the news, shall we?
Let's do it.
We are going to start our first, let's let me stop sharing. That would help. We're going to get into our first story, which is Plex. You're going to tell us about, after talking about TV, segue into Plex, shall we?
Yeah, let's. This is really going to upset some folks, because I don't understand this. I've never understood Plex, period, and I will explain that. Yes, I know what Plex is. For those that use Plex, we have what's called a lifetime pass. This is something they started a few years ago because Plex used to be free. You would run Plex on a PC, a NAS, a little server, a Raspberry Pi. You would give Plex access to your movies. And when I say movies, this is where it gets a little tricky. If you had DVDs back in the day and you ripped those and you made, video files out of them, or you had things that you had bought that were DRM free and you could play that file anywhere, you would put these in your Plex library. And then over your home network, you could stream those to your device using the Plex app on your TV, on your phone. And what made it fun was every once in a while you'd give remote family members access and they could stream your movie library or your content library, and they could enjoy content. Well, Plex decided they needed to make a little more money, and I understand that, so they opened up this thing called Plex Pass. And depending on what you buy, depending on what features you got, such as, for example, remote access was thrown behind the paywall. So they came up with this idea last year before last, of a lifetime pass. Pay Plex one time and use it. It was $249.99. Not bad if you've got a big library. and you've got storage for it, you've got the upload bandwidth, you've got the in-house network to stream it, and you're hooked up. Well, now that Plex lifetime pass, make sure you're sitting down, is going up 200% on July 1st from $249 to $749. Yes, $749.99. Now, Plex says this is just the cost of running the app, the cost of maintaining the app over a lifetime period. I get it. You know, if you're going to continue to offer Plex, it's got to be paid for. It's got to be maintained. But my question is this. We have moved so far away from DVDs. We've moved away from DVD drives. You cannot download an Amazon movie, a Netflix movie, an Apple movie, and import it into Plex. Straight in. Can't do it. DRM kicks in. Who is still using Plex enough to justify $749.99? That's my question. I have quit using Plex. There are other options out there. There's Jellyfin. As far as I know, Jellyfin is free. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that, there's some of that stuck behind a paywall as well. But my use of Jellyfin has always been free. And it basically does everything that Plex does. And there's other offerings out there too. So I'm concerned that Plex is kind of floating. And maybe in a situation where Plex is no longer the Plex that we know it. It gets merged, it gets bought, it gets pushed in with another media service. Kind of see where I'm going with this? I feel like they're fishing here, and I don't see people paying $749 for a lifetime membership unless you've got a really large library that a lot of people use. I don't see this.
Yeah. Usually companies, tech companies especially, have finessed the cooking of the frog. They know how to boil that water slowly in the pot while the frog is still there. It feels like Plex said, screw the hell with this. Put them in the microwave. And I think they're going to have a lot of people that are going to jump ship beforehand. I apologize for anybody who has a pet frog for the analogy. Just trying to crack a joke. But usually you go, hey, if we want to get to $749, incremental. If it's $300, move it to $450. For $450, $550, maybe $6. Then you get to the $749, and you can start to say, hey, look, over time we've added these services, we've added all this, and you've enjoyed it. You don't see Netflix going from what were they at originally, like $10?
Yeah, they used to be $10, $12.
This was over the past 5 years since the pandemic, and they've got more people using it. More people are involved, more people invested. And the idea of saying, all right, I'm going to cut this subscription, or the fact that you even know the price went up. You just said okay to it whenever you wanted to go watch your next show. And it was like, hey, the price is going up. You said, get out of my way, prompt. I want to watch my show. Now you're sitting there looking at your statement going, almost $30. That's because they knew to turn the dial. Nevertheless, we're going to get to our next story, which is, what did I have in the order for this one? We will be talking about, should we go? Yeah, I guess we can go into Google I/O, right? No.
Yeah, let's jump in. We'll
do something smaller than that. We'll talk about the new commercial Surface stuff.
Okay.
Before we get into Google I/O, because that's pretty exciting.
The overpriced laptops for business. I'm ready for it.
Oh, coming with the shots from far. But he is not wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Microsoft, maybe they knew this. Maybe they were getting ahead of what potentially would be bad press by just dumping it right before Google I/O started. But they came out and announced 3 devices that will have the Surface well, I guess it's 2 devices, just a variation of one of them. The 13-inch Surface Pro laptop, which starts at just under $2,000. Just under $2,000. So let's let that sink in. The Surface Laptop 8, which is, you can get in 2 variants, 13.8 inch and the 15-inch, which starts at $1,949, and the Surface Pro 12, which also starts at $1,949, which doesn't include that. Depending on which keyboard you get, you can get the Bluetooth one for $400, or you can get the regular one for, I think it's $150, $175, something like that. So you're looking at minimum $2,000 for these devices, because again, the specs that they're offering for these, you may want to bump up in storage and memory, depending on what your needs are. Again, these are commercial devices. And I think I was talking to you off mic about how, most commercial buyers buy in bulk. They don't really necessarily look at the individual prices. They buy in wholesale. I think when the wholesale tag comes through, though, for these devices, they will say, okay, hold on a second. Maybe we can get by with just the ThinkPad this year, or, whatever, the Dell Pros or premiums that they're offering, HP's, commercial line. Maybe we don't necessarily need the Surface for, again, what I used to argue was their innovation. They were seen as premium and they were also innovating. Now they're just seen as premium for the sake of premium. If you think that the price is fine, here are some of the specs. Maybe that may or may not change your mind. They're coming with Intel's Core Ultra 3 series across the entire lineup, which brings in stronger NPUs and better overall performance. The problem, I think there was a critic, actually, a former Microsoft exec, who said that Microsoft missed the AI boat and mishandled NPUs. They sold NPUs, and to your point 2 weeks ago, there's very few apps that even utilize these things. So I'm glad that they're adding more NPUs and more powerful NPUs, but until something actually uses the NPU, this is just wasted hardware on my end. This is just silicon sitting there that's not doing anything. What we do get, though, are OLED displays and privacy screens built in. This isn't like, hey,
in business.
Yeah, so you can shift your laptop, stuff like that, to I think you can go into privacy mode, which will then allow the entire screen. And this is technology they're borrowing from Samsung. So this isn't just like a privacy screen over the entire thing the entire time. This is a mode you can go into. So if you're on a train, or you're at, perhaps you were doing marketing for 2 competing firms and you don't necessarily want to, you never closed out your windows from the last meeting, you can go into this mode. The 13-inch Surface laptop comes with USB-C, 2 USB-C 3.2s, a USB-A 3.2, no Surface Connect. So for those of you who have, Surface docks that use that, it's not included. And the other thing that's not included is a 60-watt fast charger, which, what is this? This is a laptop. You got to include the charger. This is ridiculous. The Surface Laptop 8, which again, you can get in 13.8 or 15-inch, comes with the Surface Connect, has 2 USB-C ports, comes up, and one of the USB-C ports supports 4K, 60 hertz display with a Thunderbolt 4 dock, a USB-A, micro SD card, and those are on some select 15-inch models. So I'm assuming the ones that have the higher storage will probably have those as well, or the more memory. Surface Pro 12, again, all of these designs are the same, so you're not missing anything listening to this podcast. Visually speaking, these things haven't changed all that much. But the Surface Pro is still looking like the Surface Pro. What it does have this time around, as far, to justify its increase, is it has 2 USB-C Thunderbolt 4s, which it had before, the Surface Connect, optional 5G. So if you want to spend a little bit more money, you can get that 5G, but then you'd also have to have a whole nother phone plan, which I don't. I guess if your company provides it, that's great. And it has support for up to 3 external 4K monitors. The cameras on these devices come with 1080p webcams. Obviously, the only thing that does use NPU every now and then is the Windows Studio Effects, so you don't necessarily need to carry an extra webcam with you. The 13-inch model laptop gets a fingerprint reader instead of the Windows Hello camera, so it seems like they take a step back. But there are long, better life claims in this one. Improve repairability. And I think the biggest sell on this thing, and I think Windows Central has a whole write-up on this, is the new haptic trackpad, which offers subtle feedback. So like when you go to snap windows, you get a little feedback. When you are moving stuff, you get a little more feedback. Specific apps can tap into that API to give you, more confirmation through touch on your trackpad. So, I mean, there's that. That is pretty cool, but I don't know if it's worth an extra, $200 to $300. And so that's the Surface laptop. That is what they offer. What are your thoughts on this and the price increase?
All right, I'm going to understand that it's business commercial grade and that those devices are expected to be a little more expensive than the consumer, and that, to your point, we're buying them in bulk. So what are we getting off? $50 a device, maybe 75, maybe $100 a device is coming off each device depending on how many you buy. All right. I want to know who's buying these devices. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be cute. I would love to know who is buying these devices and why. I get it if you're buying the Surface Pro for the form factor, the pen, your point of sale, your people in the field, like you're showing here in the video, being able to come out of the field, throw it on the dock, and you've got, the two screens in front of you. I get it. That form factor has a special use. But to the people buying the Surface laptop, why are you buying it? And I'm not, throwing shade on anybody. I legitimately want to know, why are you paying the premium when things like, as you mentioned, HP commercial ThinkPads are a little bit cheaper? You might get a few more features for your cost. And, to the point of MPUs, why? My MPU still does one thing. Helps with the background of my webcam. It does do a few things, I think, in Microsoft Paint, if you like to tinker with that. But we've got all these language models out there, and we've got all this AI. Every third word is AI. My MPU hasn't done a darn thing for me yet. It hasn't said, look, I'll take this load and run this language model for you, or I'll process this because you've got this supposedly fast chip over here that we keep adding tops to, and Microsoft has done it here and made sure that's a selling point. I get it. Times are bad. Memory's high. Processors is high. Inflation's up. These devices are expensive. But even if you pull that out of it, Surface is a niche brand. They're not selling enough or buying enough components to compete with the Dells and HPs of the world. They don't want to. I don't want to see the Surface Pro go away. That's one of the only Intel devices still left in that form factor. It has a purpose, I think. But why are we still... I feel like that money could be used somewhere else.
Yeah.
Maybe do something else with a different product line, or innovate if you want to keep the Surface. What was the device you had last year that had the what was the name of it? You had it. It had the fold out screen.
Oh, the Lenovo one?
No, it was the Microsoft one that had the screen that would come up in front of you. What was the name of that laptop? Help me out.
Oh, the Surface Laptop Studio.
Yeah, thank you. That was a neat little innovation. Try some of that.
Well, here's the thing. And I'm going to keep preaching this, and I don't think I'm even the first person to say it. But Microsoft needs to kill the Surface laptop. I know it's controversial.
I'm going to agree with that.
There are people that come from my head, but they need to kill the Surface laptop and focus on the Surface Pro. The Surface Pro is the only differentiator now. So the Surface Laptop Studio was trying to be. It tried to be the middle ground between the Surface Pro and people who wanted the power.
That's why I brought it up.
They want the power of a
middle ground place
of a MacBook Pro in that form factor. I think making a more refined Surface laptop does nothing for them, especially if they're not willing to experiment on that form factor. What they have cornered is the market on the Surface Pro. The only other competitor is the iPad Pro. And I think if they can cut down their R&D for the Surface laptop, spending time on that 13-inch screen and the keyboard and the haptic trackpad on that thing, and focus on the Surface Pro, the Surface line could take off once again. I know it sounds contradictory to, contract like that, but I'm thinking focus on that keyboard, put your haptics into that. That's a part of the hardware ecosystem you can start building. Like I think I mentioned to you that they need to make a thinner one, which is run only on the Snapdragon chip that has no fan. They can alter in sizes as well. They can do if they wanted a 13.5 or 14-inch version of that thing, and maybe a 12-inch version of that thing. They can do their educational versions of those. I mean, they have I think the idea is to expand that thing. That tablet computer, which we saw in the video, for those of you who are listening, is the ideal for people who are out in the field. If you have people who are, on a site for, say you're plotting your next data center, unfortunately, and you need to send images of the plot, of the land, of the layout, of the, survey that you just got, and you need images to go with it. The Surface device does that. You can hold it up. As awkward as it is, you can take pictures, and you don't need to use phone link to get the pictures. You can do it right on the device. That's a benefit. You don't do that with a laptop, but you do it with the Surface device. You do it with an iPad. So focus on that, Microsoft. If you were saying, hey, you know what, we're out of the business of being kooky and weird, just refine the Surface Pro. Offer it in a fanless version and one that also has just a cover. If you want to charge $50 for that cover, it's magnetic. Maybe it holds a pin somewhere in there. You're already a step ahead of Apple. Mm-hmm. And now you already told someone, hey, this is your laptop or this is your tablet version. Yes, it can work with the keyboard, but you didn't bring a keyboard. You brought just the tablet version. So learn to use the keyboard on that tablet. Make the keyboard on the Surface Pro in Windows better, so that people want to just use it as a tablet. If anybody's ever used the Surface Pro as a tablet, it's not bad. You can snap windows. The DeX is very similar to it. Like if you can get around with an Android tablet like that, or a iPad tablet, you can get around with the Surface one. So start working towards that versus trying to just say, hey, we made a really expensive laptop for no apparent reason now. So those are my rants on that. We're going to move on to our next story unless you want to put a pin on this.
No, I was just going to say, you've got a good point. I live in a farm community, and just to add, a part of realism to this, tractors and farm equipment have gone technological just like everything else. There's sensors, there's this computer, there's that computer, and this has got to be lined up with this. Living in this community, I've seen a lot of computerized farm equipment. Some of it is overdone, some of it's pretty cool to see. But what I do see a lot of is when the service trucks come to service the equipment, what do they pull out? 9 out of 10 pull out the Surface Pro, because they've got that tablet. They've got that 5G connectivity back to, whatever they need to order parts, pull up diagrams, etc. And I've watched a few of them do it. They come out with the tablet and the pen, and they're taking notes. They're getting their invoices signed. They're taking payments from, I've seen payments be took right in the middle of a farm field.
And to that point, if you're going to make a fanless version, which you can, go back to experiment with the polycarbonate. Remember the Nokia Lumias. If someone's going to be using that in the field, out on the site, in a farm, on a racetrack, we were talking about that earlier. I mean, if they're out and then you don't have to necessarily put that giant blue rubber case on it, you could experiment with different materials to make it ruggedized without being bulky.
Tough Book did it years ago. You can, modernize that.
Yeah. So Microsoft, there's your focus. Get rid of the laptop. Unfortunately, I like it, but focus on the Pro and let that be your one device. Because again, no one else is in that corner. No one else in that category. You can run with it. You can take off with it. Let's get through Alexa. What can Alexa do now? What can Alexa do for me?
Oh boy. I don't know that I quite understand all this, and I don't even know necessarily why this is needed, which is part of the reason I chose the story, because I feel like AI went on a fishing trip, and we're not sure what we're fishing for, and we're not sure what we're going to pull back in when we go fishing. But for those that have the lovely Alexa devices, Alexa can now create podcasts for you. Now, when you read about this, let me make sure you understand what we're dealing with. If you want to learn how to do something, this is now part of an Alexa Plus, which is included free. They make sure they bring this up with your Prime membership that you're paying $149, $159 a year for already. But if there's something you want to learn about, for example, you can say, hey, I want to learn how to sew. It'll create a podcast, teach you how to sew. You can customize your hosts. You want a female host, female voice, male voice. What tone of voice do you want? Do you want something exciting? Do you want something sad? Do you want something monotone? What do you want? And you supposedly, I do not have Alexa devices. My sister does. I may try this out over the weekend. And you can get a podcast on how to do something. Now, here's my question. I get that you can do the Grubhub orders, the Instacarts, and all that good stuff over Alexa, and that is useful. I just want to know, how did podcast and AI and teaching me how to do something get tangled together? That's what I want to know, because I want to know what person is going to say, yeah, I need a podcast on how to do something. And I'm going to let Alexa create that podcast. I'm going to tell her how to talk, and I'm going to tell her how to act, I'm going to tell her how to behave, and I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to learn how to do that. Okay, I get it. Some people are visual, auditorial learners. I understand. But what are most people going to do? They're going to pick up their phone. They're going to go to their PC. They're going to watch a YouTube video. They're going to use Google AI or, Copilot or whatever to figure this out. Now, when I read this story actually twice. And I went, what am I missing? What am I not seeing? I understand the integration with your apps. That's good. I understand the integration with the Amazon shopping. Yes, people will use that. But I feel like we're reaching with this one, and we're just trying to put AI in spots to get people's attention, to get you to buy something, to change a number on the bottom of a balance sheet or a bottom of concurrent user sheet for next quarter. I don't see anybody going to use this, and I'm sorry for hyping on it. I don't see the point of this AI service that is being offered the way it's being presented. I don't see it.
All right, well, I'm going to put on my business gloves. Business gloves
Okay.
on,
Okay.
emotion and empathy out the door.
Okay.
Listen here, buddy. This is how we're going to grab people's attention. We don't have YouTube, and we don't necessarily have Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
That's true.
But this is how we're going to create that, though. We do have Alexa devices. We sent out a bunch of cheap drones into everyone's houses now. Millions of people have it. To keep their attention, we let them create the experiences that they want, and the experiences they want are podcasts. And they draw their attention. People can watch some of their podcasts on YouTube. But the idea is that we don't have Spotify, but people are listening to podcasts on Spotify. People are listening to podcasts even on Netflix. People are listening to podcasts. They want that attention. They want that. The thing we have is AI, and we have a bunch of speakers everywhere. Let's get that podcast audio by letting them create their podcast, because we don't have the big guys, but we can basically steal the information from a Joe Rogan. We can scrape his data and what he's talking about and provide it without having to pay him tens of millions of dollars. We can scrape the Majority Report on YouTube and what they're talking about and put it into this podcast. We don't need to pay any of these people, but we can get that same sort of audience, and we have the speakers already there. So when you're saying I'm in the kitchen and I want a podcast, I don't want just instructions. I want a podcast where people talking about, one, the trip to Italy and how they made, their homemade pizza dough to go with another dish that they made, about, some other spaghetti dish that I'm going to serve in a home-cooked meal this weekend. And Alexa will do all that for you. I've got that person's attention. They're not running to YouTube to go learn how to cook. And they're not running to Spotify to learn facts about Italy anymore. That's business gloves coming off. That's the business purpose for it. To your point, don't think any of that's actually going to happen. That's how people use the Alexa for the most part. It's
right.
Set me a timer. What's the weather? I think people are already said some of these behaviors, and it's to their detriment. You're not going to change a lot of people's behavior. You might chip off at the edges, some people. But kids who like podcasts, and I say kids, people younger than us that are into podcasts, they've already set in stone who the podcast personalities are and the stories they like. They're not running to necessarily create their own. They're like, hey, I like this person because he's funny. I like so-and-so because she's funny, or she has a different insight. She shares a worldview that I do as well. That's why I go to that podcast. I go to this person to learn about certain things because either they know exactly what they're doing, or I've seen that video before, or I just need a quick tool that reconfirms the other 5 to 7 videos I've seen on how to fix this thing or prepare this dish or use these ingredients. So I don't know if it's going to work for them, but that was the business sense I'm gathering, is that we have these tools, but we need this audience. Let's use these tools to get that audience. Good luck for them if it is or isn't going to work out. Next topic we have, Google I/O. It's a long one, so I'm going to try and fly through it as much as I can. Let's see. We got new Gemini models, Flash, Omni, and Flash and Omni. Flash 3.5 will be powering Search AI, the Gemini app, and developer tools. I wrote about the developer tools on our website, so you can go check that out to get some more details on that. Omni debuts as Google's multimodal creation engine, capable of generating and editing video. This thing was pretty impressive. I've seen some YouTubers kind of go over that. You can basically put yourself into any movie situation, and it looks fair. I mean, it's still AI, but it's pretty good. Then we got Search had a big redesign. This is the biggest redesign Google Search has had in the last 27 years. And it has an AI first approach to it, obviously. There's now AI mode now supports multimodal inputs, text, photos, videos, files, browser tabs. This is kind of similar to what Edge does when it uses Copilot. It basically reads the web pages on any open tab that's within the browser. So if you need to reference something in your prompt that you don't necessarily want to stay on that page for, you can. So if you're saying, you're on one page about, hydro powered batteries, but you need to also reference something else about climate change in a different tab, you can just write it in your prompt and it'll gather all that together for you without you having to switch back and forth. There's AI overviews and generative UI reshapes. They get a little more contextual in answers and images and short videos. They had a big overhaul of Google Gemini that should be rolling out on mobile devices, I believe, and Chrome OS devices as well. It looks more polished and a little similar to Copilot. It's less of just a blank black text background prompt. It has a little more color and gradients to it. The search agents, which continuously monitor the web for prices, listing, and availability, so you can spend money, for those of you who still have it, faster. There's also a new Ask YouTube, which surfaces relevant videos, segments, and jumps directly to the answers of these videos, so you don't necessarily have to sit through everyone's long introductions about certain things. You can just be like, hey, how do I put this washer on this bolt before I put it onto whatever I need to, and it'll go right to that 3 minutes and 15 seconds of the 3 minute and 45 video, so you don't have to listen to that other person ramble on about it. There's Gemini Google Spark, which is Google's first 24/7 personal AI agent. It's a persistent cloud-based agent that manages tasks, workflows, and information across apps. We talked about this at the beginning. Without access to actual platforms, we'll see how well this actually works, but it does integrate with workspaces, search, and Android, and that's huge. I mean, they've already had a leg up on that because billions of people use those services. We got workspace voice-driven productivity and creation tools, so Gemini Live, Docs Live, Google Pix. Google Pix picks up an AI image creator and editing tools that are a little more precise. They do object segmentation and collaborative editing tools, so David and I can work on the same image together. This very Photoshop-esque. Gemini Live enables voice-driven inbox searches and summarizations, which is kind of cool. We'll see how well they do, because I did it in Outlook. Maybe just Outlook is very bad at it, but maybe Gemini will be better. Docs Live becomes a conversational writing partner that can pull from Gmail, Drive, Chat, and the web. Like I said, we got developer tools like Anti-Gravity, which and the Gemini API now support the new 3.5 models and some of their features as well. And then we got hardware. They introduced smart glasses and XR Momentum. Google previewed their smart glasses, which they were okay. They look like a pair of smart glasses, but they also have a version that are just audio only, which I think are kind of useful as well. It's kind of hard it wasn't hard, but it was interesting to see people divert their attention on screen while still standing in front of you. This way they can be fully engaged while still also listening to information. I think that's a better use of these AI glasses, at least to start off with. Then they, talked about AI safety, transparency, and infrastructure throughout this. Google emphasized Synth ID watermarking, which is like their big thing to say, hey, this thing was made with AI or used AI tools in a mix. So it'll be easier for us to identify these things. Whether or not everybody conforms to this is a bigger question. CodeMender API helps developers identify and fix vulnerabilities. And there was a massive infrastructure investment to support more than 3.2 quadrillion tokens processed per month across Google products. So they're heading in the right direction. I am worried that they also said AI way too much during Google I/O, and that they built a whole operating system, this new, what is it called? Chromium? What is the thing? Their new Android operating system, or Chrome.
They haven't give it a name. Aluminum is what
a project name, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the Google books that are running whatever this new version is, that's AI from the core out. So we'll see if this AI bubble does take all this down with them, or if they are the company that will flourish by having legs in every direction. What are your thoughts on Google I/O in general?
Good show. Too much buzzword. Just way too much buzzword of AI this, AI that. I'm going to shorten this up because I know we're running a little bit long today, but I think we need to start letting some of these products, and this goes for everybody, let some of the products stand on their own 2 feet of their capabilities instead of using the buzzword that I feel like a lot of people's getting tired of. I feel like people are getting tired of hearing AI can do this, AI can do that. Well, that's fantastic. But AI connects me with that data center down the street that we're talking about building, and I don't want that. So AI sucks. I think that's kind of where we are. So let's stop using the word AI and just show me these groundbreaking, useful features that make my world a better place and make the things that I need to do better and make the things that I need to do smarter. And, less is more in this case. And I think if we can get there, we'll be in good shape. I think Google is probably in the best position to do better maybe than Microsoft, because they have the things we use the most. Let's be honest, YouTube, you integrate, as you're showing here, you integrate AI properly into YouTube, you've got most people's attention. That's just that's a feature. Most people have a Gmail account, unless you come from the old days of Hotmail. Most people have a Gmail account. You've got access to that. So let's start doing features and stop buzzwording as much as we have been.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. But that's what everyone's doing. I wonder if they, just like Apple, move away from when everyone's kind of fed up with AI and just start saying, "Oh, we're back to machine learning or LLMs," or they're getting to this agentic kind of thing to move away from AI. If they move over from AI and just say that these tools are powered by it, maybe they avoid some of that and visceral backlash from younger people using these things.
These
Uh,
tools are powered by Google Intelligence. I mean, that's the term they're wanting to use anyway.
there you go. I'm all for it. I think last thing, one of the things I might have missed was the Maps is getting an update. Google Maps is getting an update, so you'll get a little more visual. There'll be an actual car. You have this 3D view. It can go from top, like a aerial view, to I think it's third-party camera, so it's kind of behind the car as you drive through 3D printed cities and stuff like that. It's kind of a cool little thing. If you have seen, I believe, Apple's version of their new car or whatever, it's a little car on the screen. It's just nice little flares, I suppose. Let's go on to our last story, and that has to finally do with Microsoft. Surprise, surprise, we're back at Microsoft, ladies and gentlemen. If you were enjoying Google, we're back to cold hard reality. Microsoft had two big executive shifts this week. The first one being Matthew Ball. He is he's moved to Chief Strategy Officer, I believe, within Microsoft. He is the author of The Metaverse, former Amazon studio strategist, and he's widely read industry analyst. So he has some cred. I wrote in my piece about covering this is that he talked about the metaverse. I don't know how much credit he might actually have, because for those of you who are existing in today in 2026, there's not a lot of talk about the metaverse. So I don't know, if this guy comes in talking a great deal about one specific technology, be very wary. But a lot of people seem to trust him. It was, the news was met with, pretty warm reception. I think it's a sign that, Ball apparently he could bring a macro level understanding of gaming economics, platform shifts, and structural challenges that could be facing consoles. It's some insight into how Xbox obviously has historically lacked some of that leadership. So you could see him, potentially saying, all right, if at scale that we're designing the Xbox this way, maybe we cut some of these features or add some of these other features to supplement whatever we may or may not need to cut from the thing to make it viable. Essentially, he could prevent us from having another Connect situation, if that were a thing any of you live with. I know us old heads have. He might say, hey, you know what? We could sell the Xbox for $150 less, get more people into the door, because not many people are using it, versus someone who overrode and said, hey, motion-based gaming is where it's going to be at. And it never was. So that's what he might be able to bring. The other big shift that we had was, and those of you who have been following Microsoft for any time now knows of Yusuf Mehdi. He is departing after 35 years of working at Microsoft. He says he'll hang around, though, and help out Nadella throughout the next fiscal year. He will remain temporarily to support Nadella and Takeshi Numoto as they, quote unquote, reimagine Windows for the agentic era. You and I were talking off mic about this. I think this doesn't bode well for Windows.
Nope.
Not in the fact that he has any hands-on development, experience for this. I just think he's the marketing guy. And for whatever rhetoric they were talking about, for Windows, I felt like whoever was going to lead that had to be brought in from the beginning. They started talking about this new Windows rhetoric in late December, early January, and how they're going to, listen to the people, bring back, insider enthusiasm and all of this. And this is the guy that was supposed to come up on stage anytime they had an event or were about to announce things and say, hey, I'm selling you on this. And he has the energy, he has the charisma, he's a very nice guy. We've seen Mehdi in different things. His career spanned across Internet Explorer, Windows, Bing, MSN, early Xbox days. And then he pivoted to Windows and devices. I just, him leaving now, when, we haven't even gotten, the only thing we've gotten so far is a test version. of the taskbar, him leaving through this, it leaves kind of a hole as far as guidance. And we'll see if that hole gets filled shortly. None of this matters in the end. But those are the two people who are kind of shifting in Microsoft, in Windows and Xbox. What are your thoughts on either one of them, or if you have any thoughts?
I do, in their brief, to what we talked about off mic. I think it's tough timing. We can question why he's leaving. What's the real reason? Did somebody say something in a meeting, or you don't like the roadmap, you don't like the future plan, you don't like the 2-year plan, you don't like the 5-year plan? You lost a fundamental decision in what you wanted to do. We saw a man by the name of Panos Panay start losing decisions on things that he wanted to do, and he bolted for the big bad Amazon. So, I don't think this guy is done. I think he pops up in another place. I will say, he's hanging around through the fiscal year. I'm sure he's still collecting that paycheck through the fiscal year. Don't blame him for that. But he was the one that sold you on Windows features. He was the one that sold you on the Windows way. So, for all the people that's wanting Windows to change, for better or worse, you may be getting that change, because somebody's going to take his place. That person may have different ideas. That person may have ideas you really don't like. If you don't like the current ones, they may have better ideas. We're just going to have to hang out and kind of wait and see what we get. But
yeah, I agree.
Tough timing.
My thoughts are, like I said, I don't think it bodes well for Windows. I don't think it's going to ruin it. I think we're at rock bottom when it comes to Windows and the level of patience people have with it. I don't think it's going to make it worse, but I do think it's definitely a change at an interesting time. I just also want to credit or make note that he's been there for 35 years. So he's more than deservedly allowed to obviously leave and go pursue whatever else he wants to, or just retire into the sunset. 35 years is a career for most people in one company is pretty amazing. He did a lot of good work. There's, no one's saying, hey, good riddance to him. It's just interesting that he's decided to, leave now or leave at the end of the fiscal year and oversee this. And to your point, maybe he's just going to pop up somewhere else. Maybe he'll be at Amazon. Maybe he did lose some arguments, or maybe he realized that he couldn't shepherd this new version of Windows. He needed someone who was younger. Maybe his, whoever they're going to put in place to replace him has already been working on it. And this is something that was in the works long before that. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll obviously note all the changes on the website. On our website, we'll note them in different articles. So please keep an eye on the site. If you want to, let's wrap it up. What do we got this week as far as gaming is concerned?
Well, I'm going to keep this brief because I know we've ran a little long for us today, but if it's a holiday weekend here in the U.S., so Free Play Days is a day longer, and Warhammer is taking over Free Play Days. You've basically got every version of Warhammer is up for Free Play Days. You've got Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, Master Crafted Edition. You've got Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trailer, Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector, Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate, Demon Hunters, and Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Martyr. That is the Ultimate Edition. If you're a PC player, you get the add-ons as part of the Xbox Game Pass. And just a reminder, you do need your Xbox Game Pass this weekend. Your subscription, any of those subscriptions will do. Nothing is free this weekend. And just a reminder for your discounts, make sure if you're enjoying the Warhammer series this weekend that you get your discounts. I'll read a couple of those off to you real quick. You've got Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine Crafted Edition is $9.99. You've got Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Demon Hunters is $8.99. You've got Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector is $11.99, and Warhammer 40,000 Inquisitor Ultimate Edition is down to $49.99, and Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader is $19.99. Now, just a reminder, get these from Xbox.com or on your Xbox through your membership, Game Pass, down to free play days. You'll find them listed there. In the United States, these started yesterday, Thursday, May 21st, and are going through the holidays, so Microsoft is throwing in that extra day, Monday, May 25th. So if you're a Warhammer fan, this is your weekend. Go get you some.
In every sense of the word. Where can people find you if they want to play or watch you play online?
Well, they can find me, David PAJ1978, over on the Blue Sky, or David PAJ on the old Twitch. I'm not a Warhammer fan, but it's a long weekend. It's going to be rainy here, so I will probably be playing something. Might be doing a little sim racing, might be doing a little Call of Duty. And if it's something quick, I'll grab a quick game of Madden or something like that normally. But that's kind of where I'll be this weekend. Probably watching a little TV, finding a little few movies maybe. But other than that, not a whole lot. How about yourself before we kick these people out on their drinking binges for the holiday weekend?
I will be on Sunday. I have a Marlins game to go to, so I'll be watching some baseball.
Like fun.
Doing a little day drinking, I suppose. As far as video games are concerned, I picked up NBA 2K, so I'm playing that. I'm reliving the playoffs where the Lakers actually made it to the finals on my own. But you can find me at Happy Hulk on Blue Sky. You can find me at Happy Hulk 1 on Threads. I'll be talking about comics because I am reading a ton of one series. I'm reading Invincible because I joined the comic back in the day, but I realized I never finished it. So I started from the beginning because the show on Amazon, if any of you are paying attention, is amazing. So I've caught up past the show. Now I'm finishing that. And there's some other ones I realized that I hadn't read in over 10 or 15 years. So I've been reading a ton, reading on my phone, reading on my tablet, reading on my desktop. I've just been reading comics. So if you want to talk comics, you can catch me at a good time this weekend on either of those socials. Other than that, we want you guys to go out if you're enjoying barbecue, if you're enjoying the beach, swimming, any of those outdoor activities if you're in the U.S. for Memorial Day. If you're not, if you're doing something else, enjoy it. Do some cooking, do some reading, do some yoga. I don't know. I need to stretch. My back was tweaked this morning, and that's just getting out of bed. This is sad. I need to do some more stretching.
Too. I feel you.
So, whatever it is, enjoy it, and we'll see you guys next week, I believe. Until then, enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend, everybody, and thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for reading.